All right, so we are we are just really getting rolling on our series that we're working on right now with the preaching team on wisdom. I am super excited. I got to take a walk with Steve and we were talking about some of these aspects the other day, and I'm excited to hear what all kind of came together for him. So this is going to be an amazing time. And so, Steve, I'll just give you the floor and let her rip, man.
Well, I was muted. Being the fact that we're talking about wisdom, I was trying to correlate between something that would be reasonably understandable. So what I came up with is the rules of the road, and how that actually connects with wisdom, because this is something we do all the time. This is something where you have, as an individual, you have the choice and you have the opportunity to be able to be privileged to drive. Now, some people are more challenged in that than others. And the main thing is, like, I've watched, when I was in Chicago area, I've watched people who are coming from like India that are 50 years old starting to drive for the first time, and they're the freakiest thing you've ever seen on the road. So, there's certain rules and regulations, and we're going to talk about how wisdom relates to this and actually what it takes to actually have this kind of wisdom. So the whole purpose, when you look at the fact of, let's say, a governance, should be to be able to make specific laws and things that actually each and every person can enact, and we can actually in unity, give other people the consideration and keep us safe. So one of the things is, driving is a privilege. It is not an absolute right. Mm-hmm. So that's one thing. So the rules of the road, now this is where this bugs me, because it hides every time I do this. Now, when I do this, you don't see you guys on my screen, do you?
No.
Okay, good. Okay, so that's what I need to find out, because what it does is I see everybody, the people out there now in the gallery, but the problem is it hides all my writing or my copy, so I have to kind of move it around. So as it says, each governing authority has requirements providing the privilege to travel within their borders. Every state's a little bit different. If I go into Indiana from Illinois, I have to drive on the right side of the road specifically. The only time you're supposed to actually drive in the left lane is if you're going to pass, especially on a 2-lane highway. So there's certain things. I've gotten pulled over before just because I was driving on the left-hand side. Now, so what we're going to talk about first is the truth. Like when a governing authority puts out truth saying, okay, these are the laws you have to adhere by. These are considered as truth or the laws of the land. They stand as rules in the courts, and you can be punished or you can be exonerated based on these rules, right? Now, these rules are taught to understand the obligations of each driver for safety and the responsibility for themselves and others. And these rules don't change without changing the law. So everybody in the state of Illinois has to drive within certain specific rules. And, you'll find people who don't. I had a person cut in front of me the other day because he had a small car on 20, that actually there was only like maybe a car length and a half between me and the other vehicle in the right lane. This dude just flew right in between us. Well, that's not the kind of behavior that's going to keep you safe, but you can choose what you're going to do. Now, the other thing is, not all people qualify. There are people who do not get the privilege of driving, depending on certain specifics, if they can't meet certain qualifications. So that is one thing that's meant to keep us safe. And I do believe it's intended for our good. We don't all see it that way all the time. When I got somebody in front of me going 20 miles an hour, and I'm in a no passing zone, even though there's nobody on the road, the first thing I want to do, is just pass them up. So, there are times when you have the choice whether you actually stick to the rules for your own safety or whether you drive outside the lines, literally, right? Mm-hmm. So, what's going on now? Oh, here we go. All right. So now, so what we get from a governing authority is like an official handbook or something that has information. So information is a big part of what it takes. Let's say the rules of the road are the truth of what we're to adhere to for our benefit, right? So then the information we have to have given is it's like a written manual or a handbook. So everybody who's going to travel the roads has the same instructions, right? It's not split up and divided into, oh, well, these Black people were this, white people were this, Hispanic people were this, all this kind of stuff. There's a specific amount of information, because we're not in England, so we're not driving on the left-hand side of the road. But now for everybody who drives on the right-hand side of the road that comes into America and wants to drive through the states, all the states drive on the right-hand side of the road, right? So you have to get this information from somewhere, and then you better make sure you're getting your information from a place that actually is posting truth. Because there's so many other things, and yeah, hey, I see people who will drive. I've watched a few people, you got a double lane highway and you got a median, and you see a person going your direction in the other side, on the other side of the median, right? And that is, one, that is crazy. Two, they better not be doing it for very far. And three, hopefully nobody's coming in their face, right? Because they're going to smash each other at like 150 miles an hour. So the thing is, these are meant to be specific guidelines so that we can actually be safe. Now, so the purpose of all the information that's based on the truth of the rules or the laws is for safe travel for all participants, right? So that is the absolute purpose. The information can change per state, though. There can be a few different changes. Like I said, in Indiana, you don't stay in the right-hand lane, they catch you when you're not passing, they can actually pull you over. Now, they may decide to or not to, depending on the quota that they need. But the main thing is the law says once I leave Illinois, I'm supposed to be on the right-hand side of the road. Okay. So one reason is for that is because if anything happens to your car and you're in the left-hand side of the road, like a tire flies off, I've seen that happen off of somebody's car. You actually have an access to pull over to the right instead of trying to pull over in the middle of the interstate. So that's one reason for it. Okay. What am I doing now? Goofy thing. Hold on. Oh yeah, there we go. Why did that do that? Anyway, so now if you look at these intersections, I don't know if you've ever seen any like movies or anything where it's like India or someplace that doesn't have any kind of guidelines, any kind of directional signs. It's just havoc. It's chaos, right? So without instruction, the thing is, everybody's going to do just what they want to do when they want to do it. And you'll find that there's going to be major chaos. There's a backup. You're not going to get anywhere fast. You know, if we all decide to stick to specific guidelines, then the thing is, we do get to places faster. We are more safe. We do get to, I'm sure there's other variants, you know, I mean, you know, I may even pull over for a little while. If I like in this kind of traffic situation, you're not going to get anywhere fast. Well, you know, I may decide to pull over until this traffic. I may decide to stop and get something to eat, you know, until the traffic goes down. Because who wants to be right in the middle of chaos all the time? And there are a lot of people in their own lives living in that kind of chaos. It's kind of like this picture in their minds. So that's kind of an interesting way of seeing, you know, how we process things, how much we can have on our minds at one time. You know, do we have certain guidelines that we understand and that we actually allow to lead our lives where we don't have to stay in this kind of chaos all the time? Here we go again. Oh, there we go. Okay. Oh, I have to just punch the screen now. That's cool. All right. So now, one thing about information and having a guideline. If you look at all these signs. Let's say you go into another state and here's all these signs that you've never seen before. You've never had any instruction on them. You've never understood, you know, that you need to be able to have some kind of instruction and understanding on what these mean. Well, you know, you can come up like, let's say, look at the upper left-hand corner. You know, if these are signs that are meant to let me know something's going to go on that I can't see right now from the position I'm in or where I'm at. They're supposed to give me some indicators that there's something I need to pay attention to, whether it's slow down, whether it's you know, that I'm coming into a one-way intersection. There's some places, man, I have no idea why in the world they have one-way streets the way they have them. It's just the weirdest thing in the world. Even in Freeport, I found myself going the wrong way last week one time on a one-way street. And I was like, wow, that was weird. I didn't even know they changed that. But anyway, so, you know, even like curves ahead, you know, if I didn't know by an instruction manual for a period of time to see that sign and see, hey, what does that squiggly line mean? Oh, there's a snake on the road. I can run over that. No problem. Won't be an issue. Well, if I didn't know that that means that there's some curves coming ahead and I need to slow down, I could end up in somebody's cornfield somewhere. When we first moved here, Route 20 going around Freeport, there's a big curve, a dog leg that went right into Lena. And there's tons of people that I know that came from Chicago, and in the middle of the winter, I saw tons of cars end up in that median because the dog leg goes to the left and they kept going straight. That happens a lot. Now, so knowledge, the whole point about this is, first of all, we got truth, we've got instruction and information, then we've got knowledge. Knowledge is taking responsibility to learn and understands the requirements of the law. The law that I actually, that govern the area that I'm living in, or the location I'm living in. So if I don't have any understanding, I'm actually at my own risk and other people's risk, you know, to actually function every day and live my life and get back and forth to work and all these things. If I don't know what, you know, have instruction about what these signs mean and indicators, my gosh, I mean, you know, I can be doing all kinds of weird things and actually taking my life and other people's lives in my own hands, especially at a railroad crossing. You know, in Crystal Lake in the 90s, there was a school bus that actually didn't realize, because the street is about 30 feet beyond the railroad track. He was behind the line on the street, but yet his back end was hanging over the railroad track, and that they had a train hit the bus and killed a bunch of kids because, you know, he should have stopped before the tracks instead of after the tracks. That was a negligence of the driver. He didn't pay attention, you know, to what needed to be done. So these can cause us some major problems. Okay, back my screen. There we go. Now, even when we're learning and we're getting instruction, there's certain guidelines, you know, on a street. There's, like I said, this is like the left-hand side, you know, there's a one-way street both ways, right? Well, what if I'm driving to the north or up on the other side of the yellow line? I'm putting everybody's life in danger. I'm doing things that are totally stupid. You know, if I don't understand, hey, the right side of the yellow line is the direction I'm going, the left side of the yellow line is the direction the other person's going. If I'm going 65 and the other person's 65, we're going to hit at 130 miles an hour. So the thing is, we have to be aware. We have to allow ourselves to submit to these different guidelines to be able to keep us safe. Now, also, there's when you hit road signs, that's a little bit different when you're on an interstate, learning to go from place to place to place. A lot of the instruction and the knowledge that I'm getting teaches me how to discern. If I want to go to Pittsburgh, you know, I can't pass up this intersection because it says get off to the right. If I keep going straight, I'm not going to end up in Pittsburgh, right? So that's another thing that the reason we need to submit, the reason we need to learn, the reason we need to have instruction about what the truth is, which is supposed to be for our protection, all those things have to be applied to be able to get the knowledge or the wisdom we're looking for. Same thing here, right? This is more on the back roads. It's more on the not the interstate streets. It's more of like the rural streets. So I have to be able to read signs, see which way I'm supposed to be going. To this, I better have a map of some kind or GPS to find out, what it is, which direction I need to be going. But see what it says. If you do not stop, traffic on 70 doesn't stop. Now, if you don't pay attention to that sign, you could get T-boned big time, So these are supposed to be for our protection. Now, here's an interesting, I'm going to bring a story into this. So we learned in the Army that the shortest distance between 2 points is a straight line. Now, the reason I've got this on here, do you see that road going up and down that hill? When I was in Fort Bragg, North Carolina, I came back to Indiana, which is where I was raised. And I actually came back for furlough vacation, whatever you want to call it, right? So I had to go back, and I had made the mistake. Well, not the mistake. I made the decision to start back late. I knew that it was going to take me a certain amount of time if I went a certain way to get back to Fort Bragg, North Carolina, which was about 12 hours at that point. So I thought, hey, maybe I could find a better way. And I decided to go actually through Virginia, which said it was a Highway 52. I was like, oh, well, Highway 52 goes from Indiana to Virginia down to North Carolina. This would be pretty cool. It's a way I've never taken before. Let me do this. I was going to be an adventurous. So I left in the afternoon instead of in the morning like I should have. And I found this road, and it was called Highway 52, that pretty much looked like this. This road was 2-lane through the mountains all night long. All I was doing was going like this, driving, and it took me 5 hours more than what it should have taken if I would have gone the normal way that I knew. I made the choice. I left late. I was like, oh, maybe this is a quicker way. No, I almost got, they almost counted me for AWOL because I was over 5 hours late. So, we do have to make decisions, sometimes you need to stick with what you know for a period of time. And then there's other times when, hey, if I'd have left a day early, that could have been a partially enjoyable drive. But this was in the middle of the night on back roads that are winding like a snake. It looks like a snake crawled up this road and just ripped this road right into the side of the mountain, right? So the thing is, I was in a bit of turmoil that time going back. One, because, for like 5 hours, I was like, oh crap, what's going to happen? What am I going to do? Oh my gosh, when I get back, what are they going to do to me? Because they have the ability and the authority. They could have put me in jail just because I didn't show up on time. So the interesting thing is, we have a lot of choices that we can make that are even within the rules. But the problem is, there's some choices we can make that they're going to cost us time, cost us money, cost us anxiety. I had a lot of anxiety at this point in time when I chose to take this track, right? This was not the best track for me to take. I could have taken something that was better traveled. What if something happened to me? What if I had a flat tire halfway up a stinking mountain in the middle of the night on a 2-road highway, right? One, there's a lot of animals around and I didn't know what kind. 2, who knows if anybody will ever go down that road in the middle of the night. They could even find me. 3, what if there were like, people around that area that I wouldn't want to be associated with, that could take advantage. There's a lot of things that can happen. So one of the things is we're supposed to see ahead that, hey, these rules, some of these guidelines are meant to keep us safe, meant to help us, but we can deviate. Now, is it wisdom to deviate? I didn't know that all this was ahead of me when I saw Highway 52 on the map. I didn't realize that I was going to be going through all of this, but I took the chance. I was adventurous and I paid for it big time. So that's one of the main things is we have to make decisions in all this process. And I'm going to show you kind of just a guideline of what this process is. So what I kind of came up with, and I don't know, if you don't agree with this, that's up to you. I'm just going to put this out there as basically kind of like a guideline. So truth, you got to realize there is a right and a wrong. And, it's just the way it is. Not everything is a gray area, and not everything, not most of the gray areas are where somebody's trying to get by with something that they shouldn't be doing in the first place, specifically. Now, so then we got truth. we've got a way that's supposed to be set for our benefit and for our protection. Then we've got information and instruction. This learning of the information instruction has to be intentional because nobody's going to do it for you. You have the responsibility. We have the responsibility to learn what we need to learn if we're going to take on a task or do something, or the way we live our life. It's a decision. Knowledge. Knowledge is actually taking that information and instruction and believing it's true and agreeing with it and saying, okay, I'm going to abide by this. That is also a decision. That is something that some people, I think, like to try to let somebody else make that decision for them. And that's never generally going to bode in there, or it's never going to really be in their best benefit to let somebody else make all your decisions for you. And it takes away your ability to actually decide and to lay it, and to even actually dream, or to have a purpose or a direction, because somebody else is going to take, if they're going to be in charge of making your decisions for you, they get to decide what your direction is, and it's probably going to be for their benefit and not yours. Then you got understanding. Understanding is where we believe that there's truth. We learn what that truth means for us. We believe and agree with it, and then we take it from our head, just knowledge, to our heart, and it becomes understanding. Understanding also has to deal with, we realize the reasoning, we realize the benefits, and we realize what the purpose is of the information that we're actually deciding to agree with. We have to make that decision. Otherwise, somebody else will make it for you. If I don't decide that I'm going to take this and say, okay, I believe it's true, that's default, that's denial, and it's not going to do anything to benefit you. So let's go to faith. Now, so you got the truth, you've got learning about that truth, you've got understanding, believing and agreeing, and you got understanding that truth. And then you got faith, because then you have to have self-application and you have to walk out that truth. It takes action. Faith is the action on whatever it is that you're believing is truth. I know this because even in the fact of people being in shame, when they say and believe and agree with the enemy that they are worthless, insignificant, unworthy, nobody's going to love them, there's all these things about them that are terrible, they've got all this evidence, right? All their faith, the actions they take on that are based on that faith, and they're getting terrible results, and they're completely at enmity with what God's mind and thoughts are for them. They cannot even step into the protection, the provision he's got for them, if they will not change that belief and add that faith according to that belief. So what is wisdom? Wisdom is choosing to submit to an authority that you believe. Oh, hey, there's no why. Authority that you believe is out for your benefit, for your good, and that you want to be able to live in a unchaotic way, and decide that you want other people to also be affected, to where they are able to be blessed and they are able to be individuals and not be slaves. Really, I mean, it's choosing to submit to the way that keeps you out of slavery. So the results in this, if we want to go toward wisdom, end in the adventure and the enjoyment. And so here specifically, the rules of the road in Illinois are set up for the most part to be able to say, hey, we want you to be able to travel, enjoy your travel, get to destinations, see your families, do all these things, and it's actually for your benefit. And here's some guidelines to stay within these things, so you don't get yourself in a position where your life may end, or you could end up in jail, or you could be punished, or you could set yourself up of your own either ignorance or your own choices, knowing that you're making those choices. You can actually those rules are set up for the purpose of helping us in that area. Now, because of all this, when we add this together, we actually get the opportunity that we can identify with those rules, regulations, those laws. We can get a driver's license to give us the ability and proof of eligibility that we can actually be on the roads and be on the streets and do what's need to be done. Because if you do not have a license and you get caught, you're going to either have major fines or you're going to get put in jail, depending on the situation. Now, here's an interesting thing. When there's absolute truth out there, compliance is mandatory for the privilege and responsibility of operating. Because you're on their roads, they own them. It's the government. I didn't go out and build the road that I'm going to take to go to work. I do have to use their roads, and they're have the ability and the privilege to get on the highway. I still have to know how to put gas in my car. I still have to know, I have to have gone through the instructions and prove to them that I've got the ability to drive. You have a choice, but non-compliance with the law and the rules carries penalties. And that's just the way it is. It's even that way. And we're going to go into this a little bit. So there's other skills. Once you do this, once you get your qualification and you get your identity, with what the laws and rules are, you have other skills. We have to learn. Learning passenger basics allows for advanced qualifications. Okay, so you have to do the basics first, like getting saved. You have to get saved, right? Okay, 5 minutes, yeah. You have to get saved to be able to have certain privileges and everything in the kingdom of God. If I want to ride a motorcycle, if I want to have a CDL, if I want to drive heavy equipment, if I want to drive interstate, there's certain qualifications I can have after, after getting this identification, showing basically that I have passed and have the privileges. Now, I can go all over the United States because of the basics. But if I want to travel big time and want to get to a destination, I actually need a map. And some people are map challenged, right? So if you're map challenged, you really need a GPS system or a system that actually says, hey, let me get you there, right? So some of us are very dependent on GPS systems now. So that's the presentation as far as the aspect of meeting the rules of the stated laws of Illinois. But I want to say that there's earthly rules and there's heavenly rules. And they actually, I believe personally, go by just about the same setup when it comes to getting wisdom and using wisdom. The first one is the word of God is the source of heavenly vision. That's in Proverbs 29:18. Now, so we're talking about wisdom. And if you're going to get wisdom, you want to get wisdom is actually applying the truth that you understand and learn and know and putting that into action so that you can actually live in a way that is going to benefit you in life. So when people don't accept divine guidance, they run wild, but whoever obeys the law is joyful. Proverbs 29:18. That's basically explaining the whole purpose of explaining that is for this verse is when people don't accept the divine guidance, right? They run wild, but whoever obeys the law is joyful. So we have to decide what is truth for us. Do we believe in customs? Because customs are not wisdom. Wisdom is more than following rules, and rules are examples of wisdom, which is very interesting. So here we go. Wisdom, I'm just going to kind of break this down. Okay. So wisdom is believing there's truth intended or laws for our well-being. It's the intentional responsibility of receiving information and instruction. Here we go again. Hide my words. From truth and its requirements. It's choosing to believe and agree, which creates knowledge. It's understanding the purpose and the rationality to apply the instruction for self and others. And it's faith to apply the instruction. All this is incorporated into wisdom, and there's a lot of choice that can be made in this. But the one thing is there has to be a specific truth. There has to be something that we can base all this on so we can come into alignment or agreement. So I believe personally in the Bible that once we get to this place where we believe it's truth, we get into agreement, alignment, we can have the Holy Spirit basically then as our GPS system. It's like, when we are going the wrong way, we need recalculating. And recalculating, it's going to tell us, hey, you're going the wrong way. Or when you come up and you've got the opportunity to take two different directions, you can actually come up and it'll say, hey, which direction you want to go, choose one. And then it'll start recalculating. So it puts you back on that path that you're supposed to be on. That's what the Holy Spirit does in our lives. It says he actually convicts the world of sin, but he convicts us of righteousness. So when we know the plan of righteousness God's got for us, when we know the truth, when we bring ourselves into alignment and get the instruction, agreement, understanding, and the wisdom and the faith, we can actually, the Holy Spirit will always work to bring us back into that alignment. So we have to be in agreement to submit to him and to his leading. Oops, I did that. So again, I'm going to go back up here because I think personally here that this part of truth being something that we have to say, okay, the authority that we're under is doing something for our best benefit. That is our truth. And then the information, we need to be intentional to learn and see what that means, even especially in righteousness. What does it mean to be righteous? Because I still hear a lot of believers saying that they're a sinner, they're a sinner, they're a sinner. I believe that they need to really learn what the Bible's really saying about righteousness. To have knowledge is to believe and agree about that information and instruction is true. Understanding is taking it from the head to the heart where I can actually start applying it. Faith is self-application and action of all this information and agreement. And then wisdom is choosing to submit to the authority because it's going to benefit me. So I know it's fast. I know it's a lot of information. But the main thing is we have a book of truth, and you have to believe, no matter what, if you're going to live by this, you have to believe that's a book of truth. You can't believe there's a ton of gray areas sitting in this book of truth that, oh my gosh, well, there's just no understanding in this area. Well, God gives us wisdom so we can be able to use that discernment of what the truth is to be able to make a decision. Because we all have to make a decision. And when God gives you information to make a decision, do you know there has to be an opposite decision to make? Otherwise, there's no choice. So when we come into agreement with what the Father says, believe he's a good father, believe it's for our best benefit, believe he's got the ability to give us the instructions and everything we need because he sees the road ahead of us. If I'm seeing that curve sign, that there's a curvy road ahead, I have to slow down. I have to pay attention, especially if it's the first time that I've ever been in that. So the question I would have is what other, like in our breakouts, what other verses? I just showed a couple, but it's when we're talking about wisdom, what other verses that, do you know that say, hey, this is the way that you should go. And if you'll listen to this, you'll have a blessed life. Those are the things we're looking at. And I just, I want to say, hey, in the groups, just see how many verses you can find that actually promote the fact that, God is here to lead us in the way that he wants us to go. So.